Hello again, everyone. This is Zombie Kids Rule, and I'm back with part 8 of the tutorial series for how I recreated the D&D style Eye of the Beholder game character generation process in RPG Maker MZ. So this part 8 is going to cover quite a number of common events, and I highly recommend that you watch the previous ones, just so you'll know what it is we're talking about. Many of these common events build on each other. Anyway, just recommend that you watch the previous ones. And again, whether you're seeking to entirely recreate this for your own benefit, to learn from it, maybe then modify it later on for your game, or whether you're just looking for different ideas of how to approach things or whatever. I'm glad you found them, and I'm glad you're watching. Again, the reasoning and the logic should be pretty much follow through on a lot of these events. It should be very similar in reasoning and logic, and hopefully I caught all the any problems or mistakes in the reasoning and logic, I haven't found any other bugs except a couple things that I noticed when recording one of the videos, and I fixed them. So all right, so jumping right into this for the eighth part here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to show how these arrow buttons work. So when you have your three choices up here of character, if you click the left arrow, the portraits are going to scroll this way, right? And if you click the right arrow, they're going to scroll this way. Maybe I have that backwards. I don't know, but I had them go in the opposite direction previously, and for some reason it didn't look right. But this is just the way that I built it, right? So you click to the left, and it actually moves. The left-hand character is moving this way. So there's an invisible character here. It's scrolling this way. All right. So she moved over to the left, moved over to the right. And when you click this way, it's going the opposite. Okay. So we're going to show those arrows. Then once you have found a portrait that you like, you can click any of them. So I can click any of these, and it will be assigned to the box that I'm creating. So I'm just going to click this one, and now it's going to show here in the center because I have an opportunity to do other things. So we're going to talk about the arrows, we're going to talk about the selection of the portraits, and then we should be able to talk about re-rolling. So when I re-roll, the attributes change, and that can change the armor class and hit points. And we can also do the faces. So when I click faces, I go back here to the default, and I can choose a new face, right? I can figure out what I want. And once I click again, it goes back to the options of reroll, faces, modify. So we can talk about the arrows, the portrait selection, probably reroll, and probably faces, and then that'll probably be a good stopping point, because modify actually there's a lot to modify. There's quite a few common events that go into when you're either increasing or decreasing attributes and things like that. Okay, so here we are in our we're going to be up here in our portrait right and portrait left. Okay, so previously when we were doing bio screen, I mentioned in that tutorial that I named, right? I gave picture IDs, and I'll just show you again. So all of my picture available portraits, I numbered them 1 through 32. All right. So these are all portraits taken from RPG Maker, just because they were easy to use for testing, and I numbered them all 1 through 32. Okay, that makes it very, very easy to reference these as a variable value. Okay, so referencing the image name as the variable value, because most of the time the image names are things like this: actor 1_8, right? Or, that sort of thing. And the number makes it so much easier to use a script on. So, the 3 portraits that are showing on the screen, at the top of the screen, that you can select, they're set to image ID 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So, when we are here, when we have the arrows to select right and left, right? It's a very short event. So this is what's happening. Moves 3 selectable character portraits to the left. So this is when you're clicking right. Available portrait picture names 1 to 32. Conditional checks to update the 3 portraits. And if the portrait name number variable is 32, then change variable to 1 or increase value by 1. Because again, we're clicking to the right. So the first thing this does is it says if CC portrait 1, so that's the first image that is of the 3, the first image of the 3. If that has a value of 32, okay, if that has a value of 32, then you're going to set the variable for CC portrait 1 to 1. That's the first image in the list, 1 through 32. Because what has happened is you have a picture. I'm going to go back and just reference this because it'll make it easier. Whoops. So here we go. So this is picture 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and in our database, this is actually picture 1, 2, and 3. If I scroll this way, if I scroll this way, this is picture 4, picture 5, picture 6, picture 7, and these are the names of the images. Okay, and so when I go back here, this is picture image 1. This is image 32. That's the name. So what this is saying is if this variable is a 1, then when I click this way, this is what confuses me. When I click this way, I want to show the picture ID that is actually 32. So I go here, 32 becomes this one, this is 1, and this is 2. 31, 32, 1, right? Remember, these are the image IDs. And I go the opposite direction. So if this is 32 and I scroll this way, the next image should be 1, right? 1, 2, 3. Again, we're talking about image IDs, okay? Image IDs. All right, that's the concept. So if the variable CC portrait 1, that's that first picture, if the value is 32, then that also is equivalent to image 32. Then change the variable CC portrait 1 to a value of 1, so that when we use this variable in a script to show picture, it will show picture 1. Otherwise, right? So else, if it's not 32, then just increase it by 1. So if CC portrait 1 was 1, you increase it by 1, it's now a 2. Okay? And then that's done. Now, it then checks if CC portrait 2 is 32, because remember there's 3 portraits on the screen. If CC portrait 2 is a 32, then change CC portrait 2 to a 1, else add 1 to CC portrait 2. And then again, CC portrait 3, if it's 32, then change CC portrait 3 to a 1, else add 1 to CC portrait 3. And the whole point about this is that when you're clicking the right arrow or when you're clicking the left arrow, the portraits loop through, right? If you get to the last portrait that's available, then it goes back to the first portrait. And if you're scrolling the other way, if you're at the beginning portrait, then the next portrait that would show up would be the last portrait, right? So it loops around. Okay, so that's what this is doing when you're clicking the right arrow. And then the last of it, again, this is a very small event. The last of it is show pictures for updated portraits and make them selectable. Because remember, as you change the variable value, the whole point of doing that is we're using the variables to show images. So we have three scripts. $GameScreen.showPicture. So show picture 13, picture 14, and picture 15, and use as the image ID, use the value of variable 801, 802, and 803. I already highlighted these when we talked about the bio screen. Okay, so these were shown when the bio screen ran. By clicking the arrows left or right, we are updating the variables that are being used to show the portraits. So once we update the variable, we have to re-show the picture with the updated variable, and then we have to reset the button picture plugin command to make it clickable. Okay? And then that's it. So when we do the left one, it's very similar, except if we're gonna flip it around. So if CC Portrait 1 is equal to 1, then we're going to manually set it to 32. That's the end of the portrait selection. Otherwise, just decrease it by 1, right? Decrease, subtract 1. If CC Portrait 2 is equal to 1, then you're going to set it to 32, right? So that it goes to the end. And then else, you decrease it by 1. If CC3 Portrait is equal to 1, then change it to 32, and then else decrease it by 1. Okay? And then this is exactly the same as it was for Portrait Right. You're showing picture 13, 14, 15. You're using the variable 801, 802, 803. None of these other stuff changes, right? The X and the Y and the width and the height, none of that changes. And your button pictures stay the same. So once you do Portrait Right, you can copy and paste it to Portrait Left, and you just have to change this from a 32 to a 1, this from a 1 to 32, right? And this from a plus to a minus, and then just flow through consistently. Okay, so that's how the buttons right and left work, right? It's very handy to use a variable for the image ID when it comes to show picture, right? Using a script for show picture. So now there's 3 common events for which picture you click on. So there's a picture here, a picture here, a picture here, and whether you click on picture 1, picture 2, or picture 3 as the portrait you want. So all of these are going to be very similar. So the first common event, if you're going to select picture 1 or portrait 1, allows player to select one of the 3 shown portraits, erase pictures 10 to 15, that's the 3 portraits and the arrows, so you're going to erase those, right? Because we're not going to have 3 pictures on the screen anymore, we're not going to have 3 portraits anymore, and we're not going to have the right and left arrows. So this is a script that erases pictures 10 through 15. Already talked about that, I'm not going to talk about it again, but that's where you put it. Show selected portrait in the top center of the info screen. So you're using that show picture script again, and because we clicked on Portrait 1, it's the picture 13. That's the picture that is the, so when, again, I don't want to mix terms up here. When you show picture, it's the picture number, right? Picture number. is 13. And then the picture ID, right, the image ID is the variable, okay? And you're just changing the location, the X and the Y, to make it in the middle of the screen. Instead of the 3 along the top, it's now in the middle. Then you're going to have conditional branches. Conditional branches to update the variable for the portrait of the current character. Because we need to know which, we're selecting a portrait. We got to assign it to based on whether we are making character 1, character 2, character 3, or character 4. And then those go in those empty boxes. It goes into one of the empty boxes. So if CC box 1 is on, the switch, then take the variable CC1 portrait and set it to CC portrait 1, right? CC portrait, that's the ones that are up here. CC1 portrait is the box over here where the picture is going to be showing. So then if CC box 2 is on, then CC2 portrait variable is updated to CC portrait 1 value, right, the value. If CC box 3 switches on, then the variable CC3 portrait is set to CC portrait 1. And then same thing for if CC box 4 switches on, the CC4 portrait is set to CC portrait 1. Okay, so basically this is just taking whatever you picked and setting it to the variable so that it can be shown over on the left side of the screen in those empty portrait boxes. Then it's going to call the common event to show the final button options. So common event final buttons, which is right here. We'll get to that in just a minute. So once you have this common event done, it's very, very similar for the next two. So CC portrait select 2. Again, you're erasing the pictures 10 through 15 with the script. You're still taking an image and showing it in the middle of the screen, right? And again, you're just changing your variable. So it was 801, variable 801. Now it's variable 802. The location stays the same. And then these stay the same, except that you're dealing with CC portrait 2 now instead of CC portrait 1, right? So these are the same. These are the same. But then you got to update it to CC portrait 2, right, etc. And you're still calling common event final buttons. And then this common event CC portrait 3 select 3 is the exact same thing. You're still deleting, right, erasing pictures 10 through 15. You're still showing a picture. Again, you can use just the same picture number, but you're changing your variable. So now it's the value of variable 803. And then, of course, the location stays the same as it was in these two. And then these stay the same as far as this side, the conditional branches and these variables, but then you have to change the variable over here to CC portrait 3, right? CC portrait 3. And then you're still calling the common event for final buttons. Okay? So very similar, right? You just have to change just a tiny bit. All right. Now, when you want to show the final buttons on the screen, that's the reroll, modify, faces, and keep. This is not a long event. So show buttons for reroll, modify, faces, and keep, and make them all selectable. So remember, you notice on these ones over here, when we show this picture in the middle of the screen, we're not making it selectable because we don't want the player to be able to click on it anymore. So it's not selectable. So we're going to use the simple show picture command, and it's showing the buttons, right? So I have an asset that is a blank button. So it's using show picture to show the blank button. Then on top of the blank button, it's showing the text reroll using text picture. And then of course you have to have a show picture that's blank to show the text. So button, show the text reroll on top of it. Show another blank button, show the text modify on top of it. Show another blank button, show the text faces on top of it. And then another blank button, show the text keep on top of it. And again, I just had to play around with the X's and Y's to make sure they were where I wanted them to be and they looked all lined up and pretty and everything, right? So then, so that's the button and the keep, and then that's it. And then, of course, you have to use your button picture to make them all clickable, right? So you'll notice that where it says Reroll 397, Modify 398, Faces 399, Keep 400, well, 397 for Reroll, 398 for Modify, 399 for Faces, 400 for Keep. Those are the common events that we're going to use when those buttons are clicked, right? And once we show the picture and once we make it clickable, it stays clickable until we either erase the picture or we re-show the picture and then don't redo the button picture. Okay? Very simple, very easy. And if you haven't seen it, this is a very cool thing. If you click to modify this, for instance, and you go to Quick Settings, it actually it doesn't show scripts here, but it does show whatever you've done for Show Picture. Okay, which is really cool because then you can only move this one, but you can use your X and Y up here to move this around, and you can see the other images on the screen so that you can get them lined up the way you want them. So that's actually this was not an original feature of MZ. It was added, I don't know, not a while ago, but probably less than a year, I think. Maybe, but anyway, it was a feature that was added. So that's actually kind of cool. If you have a bunch of pictures on the screen, you can go to any of them and then go to Quick Settings, and it'll show the ones before it as well, which is really kind of cool functionality. And that's the final buttons. So the final buttons are now on the screen. So we'll do Reroll because that's not terrible. It's actually pretty easy. And then we'll do Faces. We'll do Faces, and then that might be it for this. So Reroll allows the player to re-roll the 6 attributes and updates the attributes, the HP and the AC. So we're going to reset the variable for strength bonus to 0. So we don't want strength bonus to still be hanging out there. We want to reset it to 0. And so there's 4 of those because there's a strength bonus for CC1, CC2, CC3, and CC4. So we're setting them all to 0, right? Setting a range of variables to 0. So call common events, dice rolls, and HP determination. So just like with BioScreen, we're going to call the common event dice rolls to re-roll everything, and we're going to call the common event HP determination to recalculate the hit points. Conditional branches to show the attributes of the current character, and so this is where the rest of this is broken up by CC box 1, CC box 2, CC box 3, and CC box 4. So once you do one, it's a simple copy and paste, and you just have to change certain switches and certain variables. So if CC box 1 switch is on, we're going to show the updated values for the attributes AC and HP, and there's going to be conditional branch to check if additional strength bonus value needs to be displayed for fighter type classes with a strength of 18. This can be actually, a lot of this can be copied and pasted from the dice rolls, okay? Because when we did dice rolls, we had to, it wasn't dice rolls, I'm sorry, it was BioScreen. Because remember with BioScreen, we had to show things on the screen, we had to show the attributes. So you can actually take from the BioScreen common event, you can actually take a lot of this and reuse it in the Reroll common event. So this should be identical to CC1 back in BioScreen. If CC1 strength variable is 18, if the strength bonus switch is on, then show the 2 variables, right, for the regular attribute and then the bonus. Otherwise, just show the regular attribute. And then the else, right? That means that's an else that belongs to this one. So meaning if it's not 18, then just show the value of the attribute, right? Because it's like 17 or less. Then these are just showing the pictures for the attributes, right? This is all from BioScreen. You can copy and paste all of this. All of this is the same, right? The multi-class, we went over this when we went over BioScreen. So this is a copy and paste from the BioScreen event. And then it's the same for if you do CCBox 2. So you have to decide what I think, if I remember right, what I did was I copied and pasted mostly from the BioScreen event and then just made sure that nothing had to change for this event. Okay, but it should pretty much be mostly duplicated. You might have to actually remove a few things from the BioScreen one, but it's pretty much it's duplicated, right? It's showing it's taking into account if you have to show the bonus or not, and then it's showing all of the attributes with all of their variable values. And then it's accounting for if you have multi-class. So do you have to show 3 levels? Do you have to show 2 levels? Or are you just showing 1 level? Right? So we talked about this in the BioScreen event. So you would copy and paste the same thing for CCBox 3, and then same copy and paste for CCBox 4, and then that's it. So Reroll. Okay, Reroll, and it makes sense, right? Because when we first did the character, BioScreen called dice rolls and HP determination, and then the rest of it showed everything on the screen. Well, that's really what Reroll is doing. So Reroll is just resetting our variables to 0 for strength bonus. It's calling the dice rolls and the HP determination again, so it's rerunning those events. And then it's just taking that same parts from BioScreen to show all the necessary information, all the updated changed information, depending on if you're dealing with CCBox 1, CCBox 2, CCBox 3, or CCBox 4. Okay, that's Reroll. It's actually pretty simple. It's just copy and pasting. We're going to skip over modify because that's more involved, because then we have to get into all of these. We have to get into the pluses and minuses, and we'll do that in another video. So let's just look at faces, because faces is really simple. This is when you decide, hey, I want to go back and pick a different portrait. So, up to this point, there's one portrait on the screen. It's not selectable. So you click the button for faces. Allows the player to change the selected portrait for the current character. We're going to erase picture 13 because that's the only picture that's showing, the only portrait that's showing. So we're going to erase picture 13. We're going to erase all the final buttons. So these, right, 27 through 34, right, we are going to erase those. Erase 27 through 34. Use the script to erase them all. We're going to reset the variables of the 3 portraits to be displayed for selection. So this should look familiar because it should be the same thing as BioScreen when you are setting those portrait variables. Okay, so that should be very similar, or should be the same actually. Okay, and then show first 3 default portraits and left and right navigation arrows and make them all selectable. You can actually copy and paste that from right here, right? Here's your arrow, here's your 3 portraits, right? And that's exactly what's happened here. Here's your arrow, here's your 3 portraits. So this event, faces, is really just this, and then this portion of the common event BioScreen. Okay, so really it's just copy and pasting from one event to the other, and that lets you change your faces. So you click on the faces button, it erases the picture that's in the screen, it erases the button options, then it resets the portrait variable values, and then it re-shows the arrows and the 3 pictures along the top, and it makes them clickable by showing the button pictures. Okay? Let's see. No, that's more complex. And okay, I'll do name input as the final one. Essentially, when you click the keep button, when it starts to go through, it's going to call the common event name input so that you can input a character name. So I'll cover this one really quickly. So when this gets called, it's a very short event. Allow the player to input the name for the current character. So it has to do it by CCBox, right? Which character are we making? So if CCBox1 switches on, call input name processing. This is just a event command, input name processing. So name input processing. Name 1 is actually an actor that is in my database, and 10 characters means that's how many characters you can have in the name. So you can see you can pick an actor, right? So basically in the database, I set up 4 names. Just name 1, name 2, name 3, and name 4. And you can change the number of characters that you want, right? Up to 16. I only set it for 10, right? But you can do whatever you want. You can up to 16. And where it is, because this one isn't used very often, it is on page 3 of event commands, name input processing. Okay? And so you call that. It will pull up the screen that allows you to type in a name, and then you're going to essentially display the name entered. Remember on this side of the screen over here, underneath the portraits, there were blank boxes? Well, this is going to allow you to display the name. So you use that plugin, text picture. This changes the color. This is basically saying take the name of the 10th actor in the database. So whatever you change that to, and it's going to use that name, and you're going to show it on the screen in the correct spot, right? One of those 4 boxes. And then you just repeat that, right? So you copy and paste this for box 2, change it to box 2, same input name processing, but you're going to change it from name 1 to name 2, and then this, you have to change the variable here, right? Because it's the 11th actor, and then of course you got to change where it shows up on the screen. Copy and paste. If CCBox3 is on, then call that same event command, choose a different actor in the database. Again, update this to the 12th actor. Make sure you're showing it in a different location. And you notice these are all different pictures. Picture 54, 55, 56, 57, because eventually all 4 of these will be showing on the screen under the portraits. And then the last one, if CCBox4 is on, call that name input processing, select a different name in the database, and then show it, right, the name of the 13th actor in the database, and make sure you put it in a different place. And that's all that's doing. So it's so the common event for name input is using the event command name input processing, letting the player enter a name, which then changes it in the database, right? It changes it in the database, and then you have to display it to them somewhere on the screen, right? Okay, that's going to be it, because the next thing that has to go through is the modify, and like I said, that's going to take a lot more explanation. And then once modify is done, modify will take care of these common events, this common event, these 2 common events, and this common event. And then the only thing left after that is keeping the character, viewing the characters, and then as part of viewing the characters, you're choosing to delete or just close and keep the character. All right, so we're almost to the end, actually. So maybe just 2 or 3 more tutorials, and the entire thing will be done. All right, so thank you very much, folks, for watching. This is the third video today. I will not do another one today. It may be maybe until next weekend when I can finish this up, but we'll see. So again, hope you're having a great new year. Happy gaming, happy game developing. I hope you're having a great time working on your projects. Good luck with that. And again, you can leave comments here on YouTube, and please consider liking, subscribing, getting notifications if this is helpful for you. You can also reach me over on rpgmakerweb.com, the forums. Look for my username over there, and you can actually private message me. I'm pretty much active on that forum pretty much every day. All right, well, thank you very much, folks. Hope you're having a great Sunday, and until I can get another video up, I will see everybody later. Bye.